Well, good day. So I've been reading some old school Superman lately, and I gotta tell you, man, these stories are so different, but they're still pretty awesome. So I kinda wanna talk some more about some Superman, and about the old original cartoon from 1941. So as usual, let's talk about the cartoon itself, and then we'll get into some more things about him after. So, alright, let's go. Alright, so there's this mad scientist in Metropolis, and he has created an army of robots that fly, steal, and loot, and they have been terrorizing banks around the area for, a little bit of time. So of course, this would be the perfect time to showcase $50 million worth of rare gems and jewels at the Metropolis Museum. Maybe the mad scientist wouldn't notice that those things are there. Just for a quick fun fact, $50 million in 1941 is equivalent to $925 million today. Doesn't seem like you'd be keeping that stuff lying around if there's thieving robots a bit. Or maybe you would. I don't know. So Clark Kent and Lois Lane are at the museum, writing up a story, just getting the whole angles, when suddenly, wouldn't you know it, one of these robots fly down and enter the museum and just start stealing away. Of course, these things are massive and bulletproof, nothing the police can do. So Lois and Clark split, but when Clark is calling in the story to the Daily Planet, Lois is like, you know what, I'm gonna get some really good stories out of this. I'm gonna sneak inside this robot to find out where the lair is. Classic Lois Lane, right? So the robot takes off unknowingly that Lois Lane is part of the loot, but Clark noticed. He quickly changes into his Superman uniform and presumably leaves his clothes, ID, and wallet just on the ground of a phone booth. He's flying after this thing. He uses his X-ray vision to see that Lois is inside the robot and tries to get her out of there. But of course that trips an alarm in the robot, and our mad scientist notices it, so he tries to get the robot to shake Superman off, which he does. And all the loot flies out of the robot's body. When the robot makes it back to the lair, the mad scientist is 5-alarm furious. He doesn't know where the loot went. Lois Lane isn't telling him, so he decides he's gonna take it out on her. In his massive, and I mean massive lair, he does some classic stereotypical comic villain thing, puts her in a slow-moving death trap until she spills the beans about where the jewels are. Even though her hands are tied and her mouth is gagged, and she's on some platform, she couldn't talk if she wanted to. But nonetheless,
meanwhile,
Superman gets back on his feet, goes to the lair, busts down this incredibly thick steel door. This, of course, alarms the mad scientist. He activates all the robots to take Superman out. But what's really gonna stop Superman, right? Not these robots. He's gonna cut through them like a hot knife through warm butter. The robots are destroyed, basically destroys the lair. Superman gets Lois and the mad scientist out of there. The scientist goes to jail, and Lois is now free to write the story about this mad scientist jerk. And that is where our fantastic little story ends. Man, that is just such an awesome cartoon. The animation quality of it is, phenomenal. It's even better than a lot of things we've seen in the 80s and 90s. Something about cartoons from that era, man, they really put a lot of heart and soul and effort into those things. They still stand up so well today. Yeah, so for these episodes, sure, they're only 10 minutes long, and it's a pretty basic story, I guess, for that length of time. But in those 10 minutes, man, it's just amazement and wonderment. Superman battling giant robots? How can you go wrong with that? So if you haven't seen these episodes yet, I highly recommend it. The quality is amazing, and where it is placed in Superman's history, being so close to the beginning, if you're a Superman fan, you really have to watch this show just to see how he kind of grew. What do I mean by that? Well, let's go talk some more about this stuff right now. Okay, yeah. So the series in which our featured cartoon was part of was produced during the infancy of Superman, basically, and was really influential on his whole mythos and being shaped into the character that we know and love today. So, as we all know, Superman first appeared on the world in Action Comics #1 in 1938. He was so instantly hugely popular that he was able to get his first show in the form of radio in 1940, and that was hugely popular too. So then they created these cartoons in 1941. And one of the best parts about it, the cartoon used all the same voice actors as were in the radio show. So you had Bud Collyer playing Superman and Clark Kent. He had a different voice for Clark and a different voice for Superman, sometimes in the same sentence, which is pretty legendary, like, "This looks like a job for Superman." Joan Alexander played Lois Lane in both shows, and the announcer was Jackson Beck, again, for both shows. Same sound effects and everything. Like, if you just listened to these cartoons and not watched it, you would basically hear the radio show. And both were just so damn amazing. So as I said how this show kind of influenced Superman's mythos, let's kind of take a look at his original powers from the comic books. It's kind of funny because the comic books, the radio show, and the cartoons all had slightly different variations of Superman with his backstory and with his powers. So in the comic books, like, Superman's powers were not quite like what we know today. For example, he could not fly. He could only leap really far, 1/8 of a mile to be exact. He did not have heat vision or X-ray vision. He was strong enough to lift a car over his head like it was depicted in the cover of Action Comics #1, but nothing more than that. And he wasn't invulnerable. Like, nothing less than a bursting shell could penetrate his skin, so he could get hurt. They kind of had the concept of flight in the radio show, and in Superman #10, they accidentally made him fly because the writer didn't quite know his powers, but that was just a one-off. So for the Fleischer cartoons, they were like, you know what, it would be so much easier to animate this guy flying than it would be to animate him leaping. Like, it would just save us so much time and effort if he just flew. So they asked DC Comics, who were at the time known as National Comics, said, "Hey man, do you mind if we kind of tweak your character a bit? You know, it'd be easier for us." And they were like, yeah man, do it up. So in the cartoon, they still show Superman kind of leaping a couple of times, but a lot of the times he's still flying around. He's also stronger than he was. He can do more than just lift a car, and also a bit faster. His logo has also been evolving at this point too. He did start off with a shield and then a triangle, and we kind of got to more of a diamond shape in this one, albeit the colors are different with the black background in there. And eventually soon we would get to his classic diamond-shaped logo that we've known all this time. So kind of moving forward from here into subsequent media portrayals of Superman, like the 1948-1950 movie serials and the 1952 classic George Reeves TV show, his powers really have been elevated and happen more and more, but the big changes happened in these cartoons. Also, the very first time you ever see Clark Kent change into Superman in a telephone booth happened in this episode. He always changed in one of the offices at the Daily Planet or some random back alley or whatnot, but this whole telephone booth thing here really caught on, and that really became part of his character, really, right? So it was good to see Superman many more times in many different time periods. One of the main features of this featured episode was the mechanical monsters. They did get some love and kind of were shown hither and thither in the 2007 animated movie Superman Doomsday. We do get to take a look inside the Fortress of Solitude, and we see Superman has a bunch of trinkets from past victories, including one of these mechanical monsters. In the Batman the Brave and the Bold cartoon series starting in 2008, we did have an episode with Superman which again showed the Fortress of Solitude and again showed one of the mechanical monsters as one of the trinkets from his past victories. In 2013, DC Comics launched a new Superman title called Superman Unchained, and a variant cover to issue #1 showed Superman fighting the mechanical monsters. Also, for the 75th anniversary of Superman, DC Comics put out a quick 2-minute or so animated feature encapsulating the entire history of Superman in comics, TV, movies, and whatnot. And for the early era, it did show a bunch of mechanical robots descending upon Metropolis. So it's really awesome to see how influential these robots were, if they are pinpointed as the whole instance of this cartoon. And other than that, that's that. Right on, and there you go. So thanks for watching the video. I hope you liked it as much as I did making it. Also, feel free to check out the source material that I featured in this video. And if you want to leave a comment on anything you may have liked or things I might have missed in this, feel free to do so. Or anything else, just to say hi. That's cool too. And other than that, have a great day. Thanks.